All right, David, let's get this started. In the words of one of my ultimate favorite animes, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
Wow, I mean, I wasn't even going there.
Great start to the episode. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one and all to episode number 12. I'm getting better at the naming number conventions here, ladies and gentlemen. How exciting. Well, here we are, folks. We're at the end of the year. With that, my name is Brian Ortiz.
Don't you mean Brian, son of Orti?
My name is Brian, son of Ortiz.
And I'm David Castle.
And welcome to Life's a Wreck. And what is the heck of that weird name mean to all of you people who are joining us now? And if you're joining us now, why are you joining us all the way at 12? Go to the back and then catch up. You're going to miss all the great dick jokes. Life is nothing more than a series of reactions to educational conversations with one another through the use of pop culture social lubrication. Another dirty way for me to say that I'm just trying to enter your emotional soul, David. And what does that mean? Well, every week we talk about and discuss a topic of conversation, usually something in pop culture. And one week you will give me the topic and you will ask me questions and you'll learn about me. And then the next week I will do the same to you and I will learn about you. And then at the end of the show, we will recap and discuss what we learned about each other in the hopes that we come closer, we become better friends, and my goal is for you to become a very close lover to me. And so that is the inevitable goal of this podcast. It's one huge way for me to court you into lovemaking, David. Hey, buddy, welcome to the end of the year. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm still a little shocked by the intro.
Which part?
You've never. Well, first off, you like pit stains were gone. That's a really good sign.
Why do you call me out on blast every time, okay? Do you know I have a sweating problem? I'm a big boy.
And second, we will talk about the Son of Orthi reference. One of these days, a full episode will be dedicated to what?
You'll be disappointed when I legally change my name to John Constantine, because that's the coolest name ever.
Real quick, I just want to say that hockey names have some of the best names, and one of them was a kid that got drafted several years ago. His name was Blade Man Dixon.
Whoa, Blade Man Dixon?
The Man Dixon being hyphenated. Blade Man Dixon.
Dude, that is first, just even aside from the last name, Blade, what a name, dude. It's like naming your kid Turbo. Okay, nothing. That's fine. Okay, well,
no.
Zero response
Those are not in the same.
Oh my God. Why is it that I think that the epitome of names is Turbo and Laser? Is it because I watched too much American Gladiators as a kid? Maybe, but I'm not to blame for that.
We are often on different wavelengths. I understand what you were going for. It's just, it was like, you were like Steve Carell's character in 40-Year-Old Virgin when he's like describing like a breast and he's just like, it's like when you grab a bag of sand. And I'm talking about Blade Man Dixon. You're like, yeah, like when your kid's named Turbo, like Turbo Turtle Power?
No, but it would have been Turbo Laser Ortiz, dude, okay? What a cool name for my son and or daughter.
When you add the last name, it does give it like a little bit more spice, if you will. Maybe that sounds kind of low-key racist. It gives it spice.
Yeah, well, why'd you choose spice of all things, dude? Just because it's Ortiz, dude? All right, well... Milo, dude, super mean. Okay.
This was David, a terrible tangent. I apologize.
This is your fault. I blame you for being high-key racist, and I'll make sure to put that in our notes for this episode. David, we've made it to the end of the year. We've done 12 episodes. It's been a long journey to get here, but I'm excited that we're here together, and I know that you have a topic for us today. It's a little special. I know it's a little different, so we can jump right into it. David, what are we talking about today, man?
We're talking about something really basic, which is a year in review. And I thought that was kind of fit in because there are certain things, like for me, man, what is the significance of John Lithgow being a villain in Cliffhanger? And what does that say about daddy issues, right? Like, I really was fascinated by getting into the weeds of various topics. So I figured, you know what, it's nice just to take a step back. Don't try too hard. let's just talk about our own years in review. And we don't have to do like a whole like best of bullshit list of movies that we loved or whatever. You can probably talk about
so
it
remove that from my list, because my list is basically a bunch of best. Well, there goes my entire list. Thanks a lot, David. Appreciate it for that. I love it, dude. I think that's a great idea. Let's talk about that, man. Let's get the big things out. Let me get the big thing out of the way. I'll start with a big thing here that's obviously not a good thing in your review, but it's something that happened to all of us. David, we survived so far a pandemic. Well, as of recording this, 2021, we have survived a global pandemic in our lifetime. Does that not blow your mind? That blows my mind when I think about it, that we have survived and lived through this tale that we will tell our kids and potentially go down in the history books. And I was like, I remember when I was in the pandemic and I was making dick jokes with David and we were trying not to go crazy. You know, like, that's crazy to me that we survived and we partook in this event of life, man.
It's funny, like it really feels like time has slowed down. It's like a reverse of the Inception rule. Like it feels like we've been living this for so long. It's almost like a way of life. And so honestly, yeah, until you mentioned it, it hadn't even like struck me. And one of the things I think it's also interesting because whenever you like someone like you like mentions the pandemic, I always think about sort of the kind of kids these days and like and the complaints from what tends to be an older generation, but not always, about like how we're so much more sensitive and yada yada. I'm like, we've been through 2 economic recessions, like like millennials, right? Especially 2 economic recessions, a global pandemic in which all kinds of stupidity and ridiculousness was exposed. And that's a lot, dude. That's, I mean, you know, yeah, sure. You know, some of you old geezers, you know, you had a proper war. I understand. No disrespect, but you know, the kids these days have not had it easy either. So let's not flex on who had it worse when, yeah, you're right. This is a pandemic to punctuate 2 global recessions. Fucking crazy.
Dude, it's going to be like when all is said and done, when the millennials are like in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, and the Gen Zers are underneath us and whatever the heck the future name of all these other little babies are going to be, it makes me wonder, like, we're going to have like a stacked list of like, shit I survived right at the very end of it. And people are just going to look at you and say, how did you not murder yourself? And I was like, yep, I raged all the way from 9/11 to a freaking pandemic. My life is a shit ball of just crazy stuff happening all the time. All the while, you know, I'm buying Batman Legos and trying to survive one by one so I don't go crazy. It's going to be nuts, man. It's going to be nuts.
By the way, I want to just backtrack because the whole like pandemic in review doesn't get into the weeds of things that happen to like certain states, right? So with California, the wildfires, with Texas, right? We had the snowstorm. That was fucking crazy.
Oh, it's Snowmageddon this year, right?
Yeah, Snowmageddon. And then, of course, if you lived in Florida, there were the meth gators. You know, so like depending on where you lived, it's even crazier.
Basically, every state had an apocalypse this year. Is what it sounds like. Let us know in the comments what your state dealt with the apocalypse. What did you have? Meth gators? Snow? What happened in your world? You know. So that's one of the crazy things that happened. We can go on and on about, but I'm glad that we came together, and I think it's crazy that we found each other during this time. You know, David, a lot of bad stuff has happened. A lot of bad stuff, you know what I'm saying? I'll reflect on that a little later. But a lot of good stuff happened. Like you said earlier, we were talking earlier, you said, you know, you're about to hit a certain age, which I won't say online for respect out of you, old man. And but you're right, a lot of stuff has happened even in just this year. And I just try to make a quick note. I'm pretty sure I'm missing stuff. But we've had a lot of big things. I'll read one of my many, many wonderful accomplishments from myself this year. Some of these are big, some of these are small, you know what I'm saying? One of my personal big ones, it's super nerdy and super dumb, but I was really proud of it because I've been working on it. I finished reading the entire collection of DC's era of the New 52 comic books. And I know that doesn't mean much to anybody, and I know there's a lot of haters out there for the DC New 52, which is fine. I'm a fan of it, but I wanted to dedicate myself, and it wasn't just a nerd thing. I wanted to dedicate myself to accomplishing something that I've always wanted to do growing up, and that was read an entire particular run or era of books from a company, right? Because I've always wanted to do that. I'm always so impressed with nerds who can rattle on information or have like dedicated themselves to reading all of this particular era, like Golden or Silver Age or, anything like that. So I had made a choice several years ago to collect every book and every trade that I possibly could in single issue of that era and just read it all the way through. And I just wanted to find a chunk of the world that I could grab and hold on and read, and I did, and I feel like I leveled up nerd-wise. Like, I feel like a Super Saiyan, and if someone had a little scope, they could check me out and be like, he's above 9,000. Like, that would be me right now, dude. Just screaming in my room with like Kamea style, with like books flying around me and shit. My hair turns blonde, and I'm just screaming into the sky, I did it! Like amazingly proud of myself.
Real quick, and I don't need explanations, but best and worst.
Sure. The worst thing in the entire books, and it still kills me today, was the interpretation of Starfire in Red Hood and the Outlaws. And then the best thing I think I read was I really enjoyed the entire run of Earth 2, a different Earth where a bunch of different things happened to superheroes and new superheroes had to come to light. And I enjoyed that entire run from beginning to end. It was so good. It was so good. I cannot believe how good it was, man. It was so good. Those are my favorite. Starfire, horribly written. Valzad and Earth 2 series books, fantastic. Is that nerdy enough for you, dude?
Yeah, it was.
You seem broken.
It was extra.
You seem broken.
Listen, I'm not judging here. I just,
dude, you're hard judging. What are you talking about?
I think I'm soft judging.
Soft judging.
Yeah,
Thank you, David. That's it. Soft judging. David, that was one of my personal accomplishments that you gave me no accolades or claps to. So thanks for that. What was one of yours this year, dude?
Listen, I'm gonna contrast this nicely with just how different we are. My thing was getting a job with D Magazine, so it's just like minor freelance stuff. But
sure,
I've always obviously loved hockey. We frequently talk about the Mighty Ducks. The Mighty Ducks, in fact, is a staple of sort of the personal philosophy in our lives, I think.
Mm-hmm. And you've taught me that, dude. You have brought the philosophy of the Mighty D to my life that I didn't realize was even there to begin with. It was sitting there the whole time, and like an archaeologist, you crawled into my fucking soul. You dusted some shit around, and you're like, look, Brian, look right here. The philosophy of the Mighty D. That's all you, baby.
Bringing the Mighty D to Big D. In this case, Dow. Right. So yeah. So anyways, the gig is basically just kind of writing about hockey, particularly Dallas Stars, and one of the reasons that like, man, it's I know that we are, even though I like to joke about like how different we are when it comes to hockey. I am a nerd. We're super about different. Stuff. Like in the same way that you can sit down and read like a shitload of comics about random, drastically different characters. Like I love to sift through like prospects that may or may not make it to the NHL, or like all the analytics behind what makes a good team. And so like I'm just a huge nerd about that stuff. So I mean, being able to, especially as someone that isn't really like a fan of like the way the media like covers the team, which is very kind of kids gloves and like, oh well, they didn't make the playoffs this season, but it's okay, they'll be back, they got us, like I just hated that shit. So for me to get a job where like my style can be seen, where I've always talked about like Roger Ebert being my inspiration to write. So being able to bring that kind of like tenor and demeanor and tone to hockey writing is really exciting. Like having like a much bigger audience. And so that was really, and it was just like total happenstance. I posted some blogs on SB Nation, and the editor who had previously worked at The Athletic and Vice was just like, hey, I like your shit, man. How would you like to write for D Magazine? And I'm like, fuck yeah.
David, how the hell are we friends? I don't understand.
Exactly, yeah, man. Like
dude, you and I are so these two alone are vastly far apart from one another. I finished the whole book of comic books, and David's like, we're not working for a professional magazine and writing sports articles, and I am the Roger Ebert of hockey.
By the way, let's add another wrinkle to that irony, which is that you probably make twice what I do per year. So I mean, let's also put this in proper context. It sounds like super high, like I'm like that character in the romantic comedy where like I work just a basic ass job, but I still can afford like a $300,000 apartment in New York. Listen, that's what it sounds like on the surface. I'm just, it was just a cool gig. It wasn't about like, oh shit, I got a new job. I would love to get a new job. Might need to cut that out.
Get a job. Get a real job, David. Working for D Magazine. Get a real job, you dang hippie. You and your sports.
It is so, oh man, it's hilarious. Because like, listen, and I genuinely do mean it's just a soft judge. But I'm also like, man, how could you read like so much shit?
And I'm like, and for me, I'm like, oh, how can you watch so much fucking hockey, dude?
Yes.
It's so boring, dude. Couldn't be more opposite, David. But I'll tell you what, the one thing that did bring us together that was beautiful, and I've already said it before, and this is on my positive list, is the podcast, David. We did the podcast together. We talked about this for so long, and we accomplished it, and we did a lot of like learning because we're new to this world, and I have been so happy about that. And I'll tell you what, on some of the, even though I despise the idea of working more, and then I have to I have to talk to David for an hour, son of a bitch. As soon as I get into this chair, and I start talking to you, and you start making fun of me and my dad issues, and then I start crying for about an hour, and I cut that out. Like, the podcast is so much fun. And I've talked to you before. I love talking to you. Even though I hate you, I love talking to you. I love riffing with you. And this has really given me a focus. It's given me a purpose during this time. It's given me an outlet, and has been really one of the big stabilizers to getting through this friggin' pandemic, and also just my own personal demons. So that's one of the big things that I think you and I share, unless I'm wrong and you absolutely hate this podcast this whole time and you're just doing me a favor.
I love how you catalog all the times that I insult you or am mean to you, and nowhere in that description is like, and I fight back and I stand up for myself, and I'm just like, Brian, like if that, again, we're just two different people. You'll just sit there and take it. I'm sorry for giving it, but.
David, as we said in the podcast, there's two versions of us. There's the one guy who gets shoved in the locker. There's the other guy who shoves the other person in the locker. Can we all guess who each person is? I think we can, David.
Yeah, that's another accomplishment. This year, man, you started going to the gym. I can see some muscles. Like the biceps aren't fully developed, but...
David, the weight loss has been a huge thing on my list of a personal journey. And you know what's funny, dude? When we started this thing, I was 200 plus pounds. When I started this with you, I was a gordito.
Damn. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Hey. How dare you? I was a gordito, 200 plus pounds. I was having a lot of health issues. I was super unhappy. I was out of a breakup. I was just like, I hate my life. And I was just shoving tacos and pizzas and or like
lemon chicken.
Yes. All kinds of stuff, all kinds of foods in my mouth. And then I decided a couple months ago to say, no, I don't want to do this anymore. And with the help of a trainer of mine, Brohammer Fitness, check him out. He's on Facebook. He got me back into shape. I am at 173 now, David, on my target weight to 165. So hopefully in the podcast we'll talk about that, man. But I fit in my clothes. I don't feel bloated all the time. I don't feel like I'm gonna pop. And the whole goal of this was to be healthy, but the real goal is because I want to be that guy who shoves you in the fucking locker, David. That's my goal, dude.
Maybe we need to take this podcast to its logical conclusion, which is we have a cage match. Maybe we just it's jiu-jitsu, maybe just boxing, but like at last you get to just purge like eons of like locker shoving repression,
dude. Our first podcast tour, when we're all badass and famous, should be called like Son of Ortiz versus David Castle in what I'm saying, like wreck the cage, and it's like a cage match theme for us.
You got to take off the Z though, man. It's Son of Orti. You almost sound like a pasta. That's
really
you're
taking off the Z. Wow, thanks. Way to butcher my name. Son of Orti versus David Castle in Wreck the Cage.
I think it's
this
great.
Sunday, also Saturday, but mostly Sunday.
Is this like a Jake Paul event? Is this pay-per-view?
Oh my God. Yeah, thank you for noticing the weight loss, dude. Getting jacked, bro. I want to look good for you. I want to look good for our fans. I want to feel good, dude. I never want to go back up to that weight again. So help me God and put you on blast. David, what is you just knocked another one out of my list for me, so I appreciate that. Good, smooth transition. David, what is one of your other positives from this year, man? And we know hold on, before I go, Dave, we're going to say we have a common one that we both want to talk about, but we're going to save that to the end because that's the big one for us. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So, David, what else What else happened for you this year, buddy?
So this year, I also finished my book.
That's right.
Yes,
You finished your book. I'm so proud of you, boy. I'm so proud of you.
Now, I'm still in the process of looking for literary agents because I'm not someone that wants to self-publish. Given the research I've done, self-publish unless that's just a last resort. But
right.
but anyways, like beyond just like the weeds of like what it's going to take to like get it like published and yada yada yada. Like it was just a lot of fun writing science because I'm always the reason why I got into and decided to write is just that as someone that tends to be just critical by nature, like I was just like, you know what, man, let's get off the sidelines. Like, let's create something of our own.
Yeah, dude, get in the game.
And so yeah, there are a lot of things about science fiction is obviously a beloved genre, and I totally get it. I like it as well, but there are also a lot of things I don't like about it, and that's kind of part of the inspiration for writing the story, which is like, let's try to set a precedent. Let's try to like sort of set a higher standard. Because
science fiction is in a shithole right now. David Castle's here to fix that and lift it to the next level.
Okay, so that's probably not. So like that was the goal. Yes, like I wanted to kind of dream big here, in part because like
Screw Asimov.
Yes, 100%. Because science fiction used to be about terraforming, going to the stars. Now it's about like, dude, what would happen if the Facebook app like just went fucking rogue and like just turned on you and like Facebook was Skynet? I'm sick of that shit.
Dude, wait, don't say that out loud. Dude, that is an excellent pitch for a movie, David. Dude, you're on gold there, dude. Right? Don't give me that face, dude. Write that down.
That's like every Black Mirror episode ever. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but David Castle wrote this version, man. That book's going to sell. Look, what's going to happen is you're going to sell that book, and then it's going to be huge, and then no one's going to buy this book that you just wrote because they're like, what is this? What is this? Where's the cool, freaky Facebook horror sci-fi book from David Castle?
Let me add one last thing, too, which I really appreciate, by the way. To me, like I've never really done anything creative. Like, yes, I've written about hockey, but like truly kind of building the world, trying to kind of do something that you see all the time others do, whether it's in comic books or filmmaking, was a lot of fun. But also, like I realized, like, man, you know what? I'm not an artist, but you know what? That's okay. Like I'm a writer, and I'm here to work, and that's exactly what the book was. It was just a shitload of work.
Dude, you're going to be like that eccentric dude who sits in like in a room full of books, smoking like one cigar with your typewriter, being like writing these sports science fiction novels in the freaking cave somewhere because you don't want to be seen by people. Dude, well, first of all, congratulations, David, because accomplishing that period alone, that is amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like, honestly, dude, anyone who is an artist, which you are now, and you always have been now, you're a writer, you're an artist, you're a writer, director, actor, creator, influencer, something, making something and actually putting it out, pass or fail, which is what you and I did with this. This could go nowhere, but you and I did it. The fact that we accomplished it together, that you wrote a book, David, and you finished it, that deserves an applause, my dude. That is some sure will right there, my guy.
I appreciate it. That it means a lot. And it was just a pain in the ass. And of course, like, you're someone that knows what it's like to like create something, put it out there, pour your heart and soul into it, and let the chips fall where they may.
I'd like it noted that I have not read this book. David has not let me read this book yet. Other friends have read this book, but the man in this room with you who loves you has not read the book. I just want to throw that out to the audience. But you know what? I don't need to, David, because I already know it's going to be great.
My wife has not even read this book.
Wow.
Just FYI.
Cool. Then me and your wife can hang out in the same lobby, hanging out, waiting to read this damn book. I guess we'll check it out when it hits Amazon shelves. Thanks, dude.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, it's certain people I will let read when it's published.
Wow. Okay. You heard it here, folks. Selective people can only read this. David will be an elitist writer, and only those that he deems worthy shall read this opus masterpiece. David, congratulations, my dude. I can't wait, and I'm sure our audience can't wait either. David, one of the big things that I got to do this year was obviously we were in a pandemic, And yet, I still was able to see a couple of movies. Have you partaken in any of that, David? Have you watched any big budget movies at home during the pandemic?
Honestly, I just have one, Old Henry.
Really?
I'm not saying Old Henry so I can, for some fucking art house cred and like, oh, well, like Dune is just so beyond me. No, Dune, I didn't think Dune was like great, but I really enjoyed it. But Old Henry, like it looks like just kind of like a real sort of like low budget, kind of gritty, not Wild West, but kind of like Western-ish thriller. And somehow it's somehow a little bit more than that. And it just does it with some like clean storytelling. And Old Henry, man, is just like so. I cannot recommend that movie enough. And it just stands above the crowd so much for me that I'm sure I can remember. There are plenty of other movies that I saw, but just that was the movie for
Dude.
me.
Now I want to see that. I didn't see that movie. Now I want to see it. You sold me, David. You sold me on it, my dude. I had a series. It was interesting. Like there was one movie in the beginning of the pandemic that I was dying to see, and I was very scared to go to the movies at the time, but I risked it because I really wanted to see this movie so bad. And for me, it was Bob Odenkirk in Mr. Nobody.
Ooh, all right. I remember
which was a really, really, really fun action, maybe slightly comedy film from like early 2021. And it really was dynamic and it was fun. It was from the people who had brought you John Wick, so I was kind of already sold. And the greatest thing of all was watching a master of Bob Odenkirk, who I've been a fan of since Mr. Show, bulk up, dedicate himself, put the time and the commitment in to like look badass, to do the moves, to be a cool guy, and just give us a different action hero. You know what I'm saying? And I was in love with it, and I was dying for a sequel. So here's to hoping that there's a sequel for that movie, man.
We have very different tastes, and
I like Dune, by the way. I like Dune. David, those are the movies that we enjoyed for this year. What else do you got on your list, man?
Yes, they're so Nicole and I sponsored our pig sponsors for an animal sanctuary named Piggins and Banks. And
I'm sorry, what?
Yes, the pig I sponsored name is Bobby. She's a massive potbelly pig. She sponsors a pig named Hulk. I actually got my parents to also sponsor a couple pigs from this pig sanctuary in Virginia. And the reason why I mention it, the reason why I'm happy about it is that I feel like there is, and this is not to like sort of publicize personal charity or like make yourself sound
show
like,
us how good a person you are, David. Continue.
Exactly, right. I mean, because I've had bacon here and there, right? So I'm putting myself out.
Monster.
Exactly. I don't know. Like I think there's something to you think we always talk about like protecting the most vulnerable, and we talk about old people, we talk about children, and animals are even more vulnerable than that, and so for some reason, like I just hanging out on Instagram, I saw like what I realized, like most people probably don't think huge pigs are adorable, but like I would get like fed like these pictures of pigs on my Instagram feed, and
that's the algorithm. It heard you say something about bacon or pigs, and it was like, "Hey, you like pigs? Let me show you a ton of pigs."
So I fell down this rabbit hole and just man, you know what? The pigs are kind of adorable, and even the big potbelly ones. If I did have a pet, it'd probably be a pig, and I'm gonna be a pig sponsor, and that was. For some reason, I find that's fulfilling.
Damn, dude, I didn't even know that was a thing, dude. I thought you were gonna like. So you don't eat the pig, is that right?
Correct. Yes.
What if this whole thing was just a scam, dude, and somebody was like, hey, help raise a pig, and really they're just taking your money and then selling the pig? How do you keep up? Does the pig send you messages or pictures or something? How do you know that it's real?
So you can check the Instagram feed at Piggins and Banks. Now, obviously, like anything could be a scam in this day and age, right? But for one, they do make their financial records public. And you can just go. It's a government website, right? So it's nonprofit, and yes, you actually, if you're a sponsor, you can for one, you get a packet with like a little like sort of like a letter, a thank you, like a cool like picture that we put on the fridge, and whenever you want, you can text the guy, ask him for a picture of your pig, and you'll get a picture or video of the pig in question.
Wow, that is David, I am shocked. I did not know that was a thing. We'll definitely have to put a link in the description if people want to sponsor a pig. Dude, look at you trying to. You know what?
By the way, I would love to see you sponsor a pig as well, and I would be curious which pig you would
eat
sponsor.
Pig like crazy though, dude. I'd be a hypocrite beyond understanding. I'm not giving up the pork. I'm sorry, David, but I love that you do it. And you know, it's cool to me because even though you give me so much shit, and most of the times I walk away from this thing crying and or re-questioning my life, it's nice to know that deep down inside, you're one of those guys at the store where like that guy is a total asshole, and then someone turns around and says, "Hey, that guy just gave his entire paycheck to an orphanage," and you're like, "Oh my god, oh my god, that's you, dude. That's you. You're an angel." All right, David, we're coming at the end here. We've reached the end, the zenith of something you and I both want to talk about, something that I think I was really looking forward to, and I know hopefully you were looking forward to, because if you weren't, this would have been really bad. David, I got to attend your wedding, and you got to have your wedding, my guy.
That was the wedding was something that I think when the day of hit. For one, I want to just really like kind of confess pride in the fact that when it like in terms of the deciding to get married. That was just a discussion Nicole and I just decided to have. It wasn't like, I didn't like put her on, like, listen, no disrespect to the people that do this, but like the whole grand gesture shit where you put somebody on the spot, make them feel pressured. Like this especially applies to people that do this on live television, like a sports game, the guy proposes.
Okay.
And of course she's pressured in saying yes, because like millions of people are watching. They're going to call her like, a dick if she like says no, because like, oh, well, look what he did for you. And so I always knew.
What's wrong with you? That man just wrote your name in the sky and had a bunch of like orphan kids sing a song to you.
Exactly.
What's wrong with you?
So we just decided like, hey, let's have this. I know it sounds really like cold and unromantic, but to me it was just very adult. It's like, is this something we should pursue, right? So anyways, we did that, right? And then of course the day of hits, and honestly, a lot of the day was just like relief and like, oh, this is great, but let's get it over with. And I think we were kind of both on that same wavelength, just because so much went into it, especially on her side. And since you were there, right?
Yes,
like,
I was there. I somehow snuck in an invitation, ladies and gentlemen. Despite what you may think, I was allowed to attend. I was released from my cage, my locker cage, and allowed to show up to David's wedding.
It took a non-disclosure agreement and everything, but it did ultimately allow.
I can't tell people I'm your friend. So it's really weird. David, I'm lucky, dude. I even got to sneak in and snag an invite to your secret, awesome, beautiful brunch / breakfast / brunch.
What I was going to say, though, is that you were there so you can tell people that Nicole and like the months of like anxiety and stress, because she orchestrated the whole thing, whether or not like you could see that care and work into it.
Oh, David, let it be known. It is very well known that she took a lot of care in this whole thing. It was beautiful across the board, very thought out, very meticulously picked. In fact, if you hadn't told me that she had done so much, I would have think that you would have hired an entire company and team to do all this, because it was well thought out and planned out. You know what I mean? That beautiful brunch that I snuck into with our good friend Rick, that I was able to meet your parents, meet her family and friends, and I got to sneak into some photos and wolf down a whole bunch of croissants and coffee and Cinnabons. It was amazing, man. And then afterwards, the wedding itself, perfect, just perfect. You know what I'm saying? It was beautiful. There was refreshments everywhere. I drowned too much of whatever that red drink was, but it was delicious. The butterflies that you released, and I'd like it to be known, and we will talk about this further forever and ever, for all the times that you will ever give me, Brian's a fucking nerd, I would like it known on this record that your groom's cake was in the shape of a Magic the Gathering card, folks. It don't get nerdier than that, people. It don't get nerdier than that.
It does not, and I've never denied it. Never.
It was a Magic the Gathering fucking cake, and it was delicious. I have photos, and maybe if we ever get a Patreon, I will share it exclusively, and this will always be my proof that for all the garbage you give me, you had a Magic the Gathering cake at your wedding, my guy, which was delicious, by the way, and so was her cake. Gorgeous. You also had a taco bar and a biscuit bar, one of the two greatest things you could possibly ask for, my guy. Ask for.
Now, like, who? If you could have guessed, would you have assumed that she recommended the biscuit bar and I recommended the taco bar?
I know you want me to think that it was you who did the taco. I know you want me to sound racist and be like, well, the Hispanic dude picked the Latino picked the taco bar, right? Because that's what it was, and the pretty white girl picked the biscuit bar, right? No, David, no. Okay, I know this game. I know who picked what. You, sir, you picked the biscuit bar.
That's correct.
She was smart enough to add the taco bar to it.
That is correct. And credit to her. I wasn't really, okay, maybe I was trying to kind of like, sort of wire you into saying something that you didn't mean, but I did think that was, there was a Latino flavor, if you will, to the wedding. And I didn't know if you kind of picked up on that besides the obvious.
Was that from her, though, right?
Bar.
That was from her, not from you.
Yeah.
You brought no Latino flavor to this thing. It was all her.
Well, I had my last name there.
Oh, I'm glad you showed up, David. I'm glad you showed up for the day of. Congrats. It was beautiful. It was gorgeous. I don't know what you said to her in your vows because there was a plane and it was too quiet, but I heard the word money train and I was already sold, my guy. And one day I'm going to want to hear, I don't want to do it now, but next episode or one of these episodes, I want to hear what you talked about because you said money train and I was sold, by the way, sold. I was like, well, this marriage is going to work.
Real quick, it was 100% a money train reference. Like I'm not
100%.
Trying to like front here, but yes, you heard right.
That was one of the most epic moments. And I had a blast, dude. I got to hang out with you. We hung out with our very close and best friend, Rick Garillo, and his wonderful wife, Erika. And I got to hang out with him the entire time. And it was amazing.
And I forgot to add, you also got to, I presume, hang out with some of my other friends, which you've never actually met.
Yes, I did. It was great, man. I got to meet your other friends, some of them being your Magic the Gathering friends who were very fucking cool. You had friends from like high school, I think, too, right?
Yeah,
like
Eloy.
Old school friends. Yes, dude. And he was great. And again, I've said it before in the previous episodes, I got to meet your parents, which was amazing. Your dad was awesome. I had him tell me about Lechuza's story, which was awesome, dude.
Okay, all right.
He told me the whole thing. It was so good. So good. Your dad's awesome. Your mom's awesome. Your brother's awesome. And then Nicole's family is really, really great. I really enjoyed meeting them and making new connections with them. And they were all so wonderfully nice. And then at the end of it all, David, you rolled out in the most classiest way possible in the most classiest old school car. Do you remember what the car was, David?
I don't actually. It was
my God. David.
I know it's terrible, right? Like it wasn't like a Studebaker. I can't remember what it was, like a 30s. I think like
it straight up looked like a Dick Tracy car, and it was amazing. It was amazing. Y'all rolled out. You left us in the heat, and we were like, "Let's go home. We can stop celebrating David now, for the love of God, ladies and gentlemen." It was a great wedding, dude. I had a blast, man. It was so good.
I'm glad you did. Like it was one of the things. Like we meant it to feel like a kind of just like a celebration, a party, not like a ritual, and like a sort of sure. Maybe if people had been crying, that would have been like a sign of like sincere. But like for the most part, I feel like the crying is largely sort of theatrical. These are like the crying is usually from people that just know how like how on edge and how fragile the relationship is to begin with, and that like this is the last moment of like confidence, stability. Well, that's judgmental, but anyways.
It was a beautiful wedding, and I'm sure if there was like a camera panning on people, there would be like it would cross across the floor, and you'd see family members with little tears and people hugging and smiling, and we were super excited. And it would cut to me in the back with my arms crossed, being like, "She's stealing my man, that son of a bitch," just angry and just like mean mugging and just excited. But you know what? I couldn't stay mad, man. You had me release butterflies, so that was beautiful. You can't be mad at that, dude.
By the way, that was a skill she had to learn. For like a day and a half, she had to keep these butterflies on ice for every 4 hours, ice packs and ice itself, just to make sure those butterflies stayed alive until that afternoon. So credit to
dude. It was epic. Yeah, it was an epic wedding, my dude. It was absolutely an epic wedding. And again, I loved it, man. Anytime that I get an excuse to hang out with you and Rick and just all day long, just talk about dumb stuff and have a great time with people.
By the way,
dude, that's all you want out of a wedding.
By the way, we will post a photo of. So I emailed you a photo.
Yes. Can we? Can we post that?
That photo will be on our whether like Facebook, social media, Instagram, whatever. Yes,
we'll post it on our social media for sure, ladies and gentlemen. A photo from the wedding that pretty much encompasses our relationship perfectly to a T, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm glad you liked it.
And with that, David, we come to the end of our show and to the end of the year, my guy. Hey, man, congratulations. And all honestly, as much as I really hate you, congratulations on us making it this far, achieving this goal, putting this out. You know, we're small and we're growing. We have one fan. We have two fans. We have three fans, I know for a fact, and
Still
one review.
On one hand,
and you know what? You know what? That's a start, baby. That's a start, ladies and gentlemen. We hope to bring you more. David, thanks for doing this podcast with me. Thanks for agreeing to do this podcast with me, man. And thanks for being the first person to say, I still want to do this with you. And I was like, but we don't even barely know each other. And you're like, yeah, let's try it. And that meant the world to me. And here we are, and I couldn't be happier, my guy.
You know, I appreciate that. I've been kind of like ignoring some of your accomplishments for the year, not because I feel like I'm just so much bet. I talk about like a book and a wedding and a blah 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 and a job, even though you make like twice what I make. But what I would say is that I'm happy for you too, Brian.
Well, thank you, David.
But yes, the sort of the podcast is another big element. You know, I didn't mention that. Not just because I hate you, but also because it has been fun. You know, because I really came into this with the idea that we're just going to like hang out and talk. Instead, like every episode is kind of turned into something personal and cathartic, and it never feels like work. Part of that is, most of that's driven by you and your kind of like creative mindset, what you envision for the show. Because for me, in the beginning, I was just like, I'm along for this ride. Yeah, let's have some fun. As opposed to something like deliberate and creative and good shit, Brian.
Thank you, David. I thought this was going to be a train wreck. I still think it's a train wreck, but now it's a train wreck with wheels, and that's awesome.
Yes.
But you know what? I'll tell you what I didn't know. Like you said, I didn't think at the end of the day that this would be cathartic. And learning more about how you operate through life has motivated me to readjust how I think about things. And that's hard to do the older you get, man. It's hard to learn new things. And it's hard to listen to someone and take what they say and apply it. And with you, because of the way you have guided me on several areas, the amount of fun you make of me because of my dick, it just really, really means the world to me that we do this, that I have learned from you and your experiences. And you have made me a better man, David. You have made me a better man because of this podcast. And I thank you for that.
Lofty. Those big words.
All right, enough of this ooshy gushy crap. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this year in review. We will see you in 2022, where we hope to get more going. Future goals, David? I want to get us a Patreon one day, because that would be fun to do exclusive content for people. And two, the biggest reason I want to do all of this is because I want to play D&D with you on this show and put that out. That's the only reason I agreed to do any of this. I just want to play D&D with you and make you do stuff like kill goblins and things.
If you do that, you got to play Magic the Gathering.
Well, I'm telling you, the Magic the Gathering should be
right.
the awesome exclusive for the Patreon with a live feed of us playing it.
Okay.
That would be amazing. If you want to see that, ladies and gentlemen, you can do that by hitting us up. When you do, remember to like, share, give us 5 stars. If you leave a review, we'll read it out loud. If you give us 5 stars and leave a bad review, we'll still read it out loud. If you'd like to tell us how great we're doing, or demand, if you'd like to tell us how good we're doing, or if you have a topic that you'd like us to talk about because we're lazy and we don't want to come up with topics, or you'd like some advice on something going on in your life, you can email us at recthepod@gmail.com. That's recthepod@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at recthepod. Let us hear from you, ladies and gentlemen. If you want us to play D&D or do some Magic the Gathering stuff, let us know. We want to talk to you. We want to move forward. We want to make cool content. David, any last words before we leave this year?
Happy New Year's. Like I was gonna say listeners, but we just talked about like a couple people.
Right.
But listen, happy holidays, happy New Year. Brian, you're a piece of shit, but also a good friend. So
David, I fucking hate you. Happy New Year, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Life's a Wreck is an FC podcast production created by Brian Ortiz and David Castillo, recorded in our homes and edited by me, Brian Ortiz. Theme song and outro by Hard Power USA. Check them out on SoundCloud. And please let us know what you think about the show by rating us and leaving a comment. You can also email us topics of discussion for future episodes at recthepod@gmail.com. That's recthepod@gmail.com. Hey, thanks for listening to our little slice of the podcast world, and we'll see you at the next episode.